So today I want to talk about interpersonal communication. And I came across something that intrigued me in a biography of Acharya Moon. And he was a Thai forest master monk who lived in the 20th century. And many believe that he attained arhatship in that life. And one of his disciples, Acharya Buwa, wrote a very good biography about him. And so the biography has many stories about the different kinds of beings that Acharya Moon would teach the Dharma to, and one of them were devas. And devas would come on a fairly regular basis to meet with him late at night to receive teachings from Acharya Moon, and sometimes he would even interrupt his teachings for his monks and send them away because the devas had arrived sort of unexpectedly. And so the book attempts to explain how he was able to communicate with the devas. And one passage says, discussions between devas and monks are carried on entirely in the universal language of the heart, bypassing the multitude of conventional languages used by human beings and other types of animals. So this is the phrase that really intrigued me, the universal language of the heart. And the book says, arising from the citta, the substance of the inquiries turns into questions in the language of the heart, which the inquiring individual clearly understands as if they were words in conventional language. Each word or phrase of the respondent emanates directly from the heart, so the questioner in turn understands the reply perfectly well. In fact, the language of the heart directly conveys the true feelings of the speaker, eliminating the need for explanations to clarify further, as might be required in conventional languages. Verbal communication, which all of us are familiar with, is also a mechanism of the heart, but its nature is such that spoken words often do not reflect the heart's true feelings, so mistakes are easily made in communicating its true intent. This incongruity will remain so long as conventional language is used as a surrogate medium for the heart's expression. Since most people are unfamiliar with the language of the heart, their hearts cannot avoid using normal speech as a mechanism to facilitate communication, even though it's not very accurate in expressing the heart's true meaning. There is no possible way to solve this common dilemma unless people learn the heart's own language and expose its mysteries, which is through spiritual practice. So a lot of that may be beyond our range of experience at this point, but I think most of us would agree that words are often easily misunderstood, or they're quite limiting in conveying our full range of meaning. And one study that's often cited by communication, people who study communications, found that 93% of communication is nonverbal in the form of body language and tone of voice. That study has been challenged a little bit, but it's definitely true. I think tone of voice conveys even more sometimes than the words themselves. So Acharya Moon's biography also describes conversations he had with arhats who had already passed away after he attained arhatship. And one arhat supposedly told him, the appearance in the world of a fully enlightened arhat is a remarkable event that benefits living beings throughout all the world systems. Your attainment of purity has made you an enormous boon for humans, devas, and brahmas alike. You are also well versed in the universal language of the heart, which is far more important than any other form of communication. All the Buddhas, and certain categories of arhats, use the language of the heart when giving assistance to living beings, for it is the universal language of sentient beings throughout the universe. Contacting and teaching non-physical beings is achieved exclusively by means of this universal form of communication. Those communicating in the language of the heart can understand each other much more quickly and easily than would normally be the case. So ever since I read this, I've been wondering, what is the language of the heart? And I would really like to learn how to speak that. So how can I do it? And I feel like some things have come up recently that gave me a little bit of insight into what this means, and as you may be able to guess, compassion and cherishing others is really at the heart of this ability to speak the language of the heart. So my first insight was that how I speak to people says more about who I am and my state of mind than it does about them. And how other people speak to me says more about their state of mind and who they are than it says about me. And I must admit that this is really not my habitual way of thinking. Usually I get really affected or afflicted by how others talk to me, thinking that it's somehow a reflection of who I am, and then I really struggle hard to either protect myself or defend myself or prove that they're wrong. But this is really not how I would like to relate to people going forward. If somebody has an issue with something I said or did, or they're pointing out a fault, or they're upset with me, I'd really like to be able to focus on their suffering in that moment and be able to really put that at the forefront of how I respond, so that compassion for them will influence what I say and do, rather than this need to protect myself and defend myself. So yeah, just putting others kind of at the forefront of any conversation that I have. And I think this will really change the dynamic of that exchange, and at least it will have probably a better outcome as a result. So I think a lot of us who have done self-reflection and meditation on recognizing the afflictions in our minds and unhelpful ways of thinking would say that this makes it easier to recognize that in others. And living in community also, I think, helps, that mirror effect where we can say, oh, wow, I've been there, or maybe that's how I'm appearing. So in this way, the mental clarity that arises from purification and creation of merit gives us an enhanced ability to pick up on the emotional state of another person. And I think a very good living example of this is Venerable Children, who is able to see things in other people that many other people cannot. And then Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, he describes the process of relating to people with compassion as front and center as putting on giraffe ears. And with giraffe ears, we attempt to attune to the feelings and needs of the other person, regardless of whatever they're saying or how they're saying it. With giraffe ears on, the focus is on the other person's well-being and maintaining a harmonious relationship with them, rather than addressing whatever they're saying at the surface level. I really love the tragic expression of unmet needs in MVC, which describes how people sometimes express their needs in the most harmful and counterproductive ways, like attacking other people because they want to feel safe, or ignoring other people because they want to feel connected. And wearing giraffe ears enables us to hone in on a person's deeper needs, regardless of what they're saying, and to separate their words and their actions from who they are, and to recognize if suffering is driving their behavior. And when we're able to do this, responding with compassion and kindness is just so much easier and will only help the situation. So then lastly, I was thinking about how Chenrezig is known as the one who hears the cries of the world, because he is exquisitely attuned to the suffering of all sentient beings at all times, and therefore can respond in a way that helps them to be free of it. And to me, this sounds very much like saying he speaks the language of the heart, mentioned in Achara Moon's biography. So my takeaway is that cultivating compassion and reducing self-centeredness can give one the ability to access information coming from others that is otherwise difficult. It's otherwise difficult to perceive. And then this extended base of information allows us to act in ways that can help them more effectively. And I'm guessing that when compassion is developed to its fullest extent as a fully awakened Buddha, one becomes fully fluent in the language of the heart, and one is able to know the mental state of any sentient being at any point in time, and then how to communicate with them in a way that enables them to be heard and to benefit them in the best way.